Hi, everyone. This is Bob Sorrentino from Italian Roots and Genealogy. Be sure to check out our Facebook group and our newsletter on our YouTube channel and our great sponsors, Abitativa Casa, Italy Rooting, and Phil Italy. And my guest today is Egizia Brown, who was born in Italy and then moved to Canada when she was 10. So welcome, Egizia. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Bob. It's a pleasure to be here.
No, I'm very excited because the books are great. What I really, really enjoyed, because I'm trying my best to learn Italian, is that you wrote it in Italian and English.
I did that because I was teaching Italian to adults. After I retired from teaching, I went to teach adult education, and they wanted to know about my life. So we made it in Italian first, and then they would translate. As I read one sentence, they would they take turns translating. So they were learning.
Oh, that's cool. Well, our teacher now at our Italian club, I go every Saturday, and I'm starting to understand better. Speaking, yeah, I'm still a little timid, but he's 92, and he's a teacher also, a retired teacher.
Wow, that is great. I love teaching. It's a good and rewarding profession.
Yeah, for sure. And he came to America when he was 20. Uh, and,
Oh,
uh, and he's, stayed ever since. So it's just, I like him because what he does is he goes around, he makes everybody talk. He goes around the room and
yes,
makes us
yes,
all talk.
that's right. It's the main thing. You have to. If you tell them, they don't learn. They have to search it out themselves. I always say, cercalo. That means look for it. And
Great.
I came over when I was 10 years old. So I was in school. I had to go to school, fourth grade, and they put me to third grade. I
Yes,
skipped it.
yes.
I went backwards a year.
Well, I guess that not uncommon, I guess, especially back then. So what I really, really liked was your stories about Italy in the first book. So why don't you just tell everybody? I'll let you just go. Just tell everybody about what your childhood was like in Italy.
It was different from the way we are here. We didn't have any, at the very beginning, I remember we didn't have any toilets. We had a potty chair up in the balcony that was enclosed, and mom would have to take that out every morning and to go dump it in the fields. And then later on, it was used as manure because she'd cover it up with straw. And so it was not an easy life. I remember even when I'd have to go to school, I always had to walk. There was no bus. And it was a small town, Prato La Peligna, in Abruzzo. We were only 9 kilometers from Sulmona, but we didn't have a hospital. So we always went to our eremito, a hermit that was like a medicine man. He would cure everything. Even when I went there with my grandfather after I had pulled my shoulder out of the socket because we had been playing airplanes, he fixed it right away and showed me around the place. And he lived right on the area. And what was the payment? It was 2 live chickens. That's all he wanted. He wanted the food, and he was always very happy to see people come.
Wow, that's something. The one story that really blew me away was the tonsils, when you had your tonsils removed.
Yeah, those were another surprise. After that removal of tonsils and being treated like a queen because I could only eat ice cream that day, everybody came to visit me. My father came back and we played with a mouse, a little mouse made from a handkerchief that you can breathe air and breathe life and make him jump at people. And they usually get scared. But then when they know it's only a handkerchief, then it's good.
And they took your tonsils out. It wasn't a hospital or anything like that, right? It was.
No, no, it was the same day, but they only clipped them. A few years later, within 10 years, they grew back again. And I was shocked because,
Yeah, well, I've heard that even happening here once in a while that they would go back. And so in this little town in Italy, obviously you were surrounded by everybody, your aunts, your uncles, your
yes,
grandparents, everybody was there, right?
Yes, we did everything together, even with our neighbors. We shared. We had a horse, and the neighbors shared our horse, and we got milk from them. So everything was, you give me something, I give you something else. A lot of bartering.
Yeah, yeah, that's the impression that I got. Yeah, that just, I mean, it just, you know, you could just envision yourself there in this small little town. And a lot of people listening, I don't think understand, that Italy, in the 30s and 40s and 50s was nothing like America.
No, no,
I mean, now when
not
you
at
go to
all.
visit, of course, there's everything, right?
Yes, yeah, you have all the amenities, but then you didn't. We even palm olive soap. I still use palm olive soap because that's the only soap I had when I was little. Because my mother used to make soap with lard and etc., but it was to wash the clothes with. But this palm olive smelled good, looked good, and so I still use palm olive soap because of it. And we used to get it at the market every Saturday.
Wow, yeah, that's something. So and virtually, well, how many people were in the town when you lived there? How many?
We're only about 500 people.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Holy.
So now we could walk around the town in 1 hour,
Hmm.
and the cemetery was far away. Now, when I go back, the cemetery is right next to all the other buildings that they built.
Oh, so the town actually expanded. A lot
Expanded,
of towns went
yes,
the other
yes.
way.
Yeah, no, this town expanded, but the outside is now better than the inside because the inside they're selling the houses for €2 each if they redo them. They're old and everything needs to be built up again on it. But we do have a house there and now, and my aunt has it, and I've been there. So they've redone the stairs. The stairs were all warped down. They were stone, so the stone had been
Hmm.
warped down. Now they're new stairs, a shower, and bathroom, and everything is just right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've stayed in places in Naples and everything to your point where the stairs are still worn. They didn't replace the stairs, and you think
Yeah.
how many people must have walked up these stairs to wear them down like that, right?
Yes, and the houses were all similar. They were attached to each other. We could knock at the fireplace and talk to the neighbor when there was no fire. Otherwise, you'd go out and holler from the window. But we all had a common wall, and the cellars were the same. We had always had the wine making, the presses there. We'd do them. I was one of the ones that would go into the press and with my boots. I didn't go with bare feet. Boots to crush the grapes after they had been prepared.
So, I mean, your parents, your grandparents, and everything, you were pretty much self-sufficient in this town, right?
Yes, yes, it's a very tight family and large. Everybody knew everybody, so you didn't do anything wrong because it went right away back to your parents.
That's funny. Yeah, well, I kind of,
We
even
did,
though I grew up in America, I kind of had the same thing with my family and my aunts and uncles.
yeah. Well, we all lived in the town. The farms were outside, so everybody came in at night. They didn't stay out in the field because we did have wolves. We had to have the sheep would be put in the little huts that were built by straw and thatched roofs, so that
Wow.
the sheep wouldn't disappear with the wolves coming.
Wow. And so I don't remember, was it your father or your grandfather that used to help each farm water their crops? That he used to go, I guess, through the river or canal and open up the little gates to let the water flow in?
Yeah, it was my grandfather. My grandfather. Yes, we had each farm was near the river, but they couldn't get the water unless it was given by the Aquayo, which Aquayo is the guy that's in charge of the water. And so my grandfather was in charge of the water, and he'd go early in the morning. No appointments. Whoever goes early enough gets first. So he would go up there with his daughter sometimes, and they'd do the work together. And then there would also be some fights because some people wanted more water than they're supposed to get. They were supposed to get it for an hour. They wanted it for a little while longer, so he had to go and shut it off.
That's something. That really that and the everybody got the water from the fountain in the town, right?
Oh, yes, that's at the bottom of the stairs. I didn't have a road in front of my house. I had stairs. And at night, at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, it got turned off because if it wasn't used, there were holes in the pipes or somewhere. They told me that they would lose the water elsewhere. But if it's used, then the water comes through and doesn't go into the holes
Hmm.
and get dissipated without being used.
Wow, that's funny. And I guess you said in the winter it would freeze over, right? If it got too
That's
cold.
right. In the winter, yeah, you had to, it had to run or else it would freeze. And when we'd pick it, we'd bring it up with a concha. Did you see my picture on with the concha on my head?
Uh-huh,
That
uh-huh.
one, my mother used to carry water on it up the stairs. And then in the wintertime, it would freeze over. So we had the dipper and we'd break the ice and use it for washing, for food, for everything.
Yeah, it's
So
just
some of the food, sorry.
I enjoyed that so much reading about that. It was just very intriguing to me because I could picture, you know, uh, especially my mother's family from Torito, growing up like that. And my uncle and his family came over about the same time as your family did. He had stayed behind when my grandparents moved to America. And he didn't come till 1950. And he he worked on a in a mushroom farm outside of Toronto, and there's a lot of ballets there. That's apparently my mother's town, Torito. A lot of people went to Toronto, this wherever it was outside of Toronto, uh, and that's what he did. He worked on a mushroom farm for several years.
Yes, a lot of people in Italy did go pick mushrooms. They all knew which were the good mushrooms. They knew the bad ones, and they were able to learn how to do that. And I know that my father, when he moved over to Canada in 1949, he left us, so mom had to take care of the farm, and she did everything that he would have done.
Yeah, it was the same thing with my grandfather's, with my uncle's family. He came, and I don't think he was there that long. He was there a couple of years. And my cousin came first. My cousin was 18. I think my cousin Mary she's in her 90s now. I know that. And she didn't. He was in a place. It was all men, and not that anybody bothered her, I guess, but she was very, very unhappy. So when my aunt and uncle went to visit her, my uncle said, "Well, come to America with us," and they took out the back seat of the car and hid her underneath the seat of the car. And he drove her across the bridge to America. And
Yeah.
nobody else would get in the car with him. Everybody else walked over the bridge because they thought he was going to get arrested or whatever. And and then she wanted to get married in America. She met her husband here. They had to sneak her back in to Canada so she could come across legally.
Wow. That's a good story. Yes.
Yeah. No, it's a funny story too. Because my uncle was he was crazy. He would do
Yeah.
anything. He nothing bothered my mother's brother-in-law. Um,
Yeah.
so I was fascinated by a couple other things too in there. So just a little bit about uh, what the holidays were like, what the festivals, the saint feast days. What was that like for you in Italy?
Oh, they were fantastic. They were the things everybody looked for. We had the La Festa della Madonna, May, the first week of May. Every day it was a big celebration. And every night there were fireworks, even one better than the night before. And we'd make parades. I had a little band that we'd march around with the parade. The parades were, the people walking on sticks, tall people. They were fire eaters. They were wind bands. Everybody clapped every time a different one would come. We made so much noise that I think it was more louder than anything else that we've ever heard. And then the fireworks would come every night. So the whole week, that was in May. But that wasn't the only holiday. There's also a holiday for around the harvest time of wine. Every time the wine had to be harvested, then you had to prepare the barrels. The barrels used to get water seep right through. So you have to make a lot of water go through so that the wood would expand and become good enough to keep the must in for the wine so that it would become wine.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I said, yeah, that makes sense, I guess. Yeah, that you have to swell the barrels every year so the wine didn't leak out, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Did
When I'd
everybody
go
make their
play,
did everybody make their wine in town?
everybody made their wine. That's right. We always had a cellar with a wine press. And they'd sell some of it because that was the way you earn money. You earn money at the harvest of the wheat and the vegetables and then the wine. So you had the whole year without anything and you bartered. When we'd go to the market, we always had a little sacks, 2 kilos each of beans or 1 kilo of something else. And that's how we bought things. Not much money exchanged.
Yeah, and it sounded like it was like the same thing with clothes and everything, right? So I guess someone
Yes.
would make
Yeah.
clothes and
Yeah, we made our own clothes. As a matter of fact, that first picture of me in Pratola, that was all handmade, and the embroidery, the little collar was embroidered by hand. Everything had to
yeah.
be done by hand. If you can't do it, even my mother would make our shoes. She'd get the
Really?
soles and to tack around the canvas, and that would be our shoe.
We'll be right back.
Experience Italy like never before, traveling with a scheduled group or create your own bespoke tour with friends with philitaly.co. Pack your bags and follow Phil. That's www.philitaly.co. Wow, that's something. That's really, really something. You know, my grandmother used to knit or crochet. Every time a baby was being born, she would make the little
Yeah,
sweaters and the hats and things like that, you know.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and beautiful. I mean, it's certainly better than you could buy in a store, that's for sure.
Because it was hand done. Every stitch was done by hand. And the same when we had the blacksmith next door, he would give us some chondoli, little things that we could hang on our chains, and he'd make them from forks or he'd make them from something that was pleasing to the kids. He loved giving things away, but his place was always too hot. And he'd do everything for us. To preserve our sausages, we would put them in a tin can, fill it with oil, and that would last a whole year. But he'd have to sigillare, that means seal it, so that there's no air that goes in it. So that's how we didn't have a refrigerator. We had to save everything in oil or dry it like a prosciutto. It had to be dried with salt.
So you would have this tin and you would put your sausages in it and put the oil, and then you would bring it to him and he would seal it.
Yes, 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 yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And the same with the pig. We made the pig, we grew the pig, and then we killed them in October. And that's what we made the sausage. And we did it at around October to put it in oil.
Yeah, well, that's what they told us in Passato when we went there, because that was one of my towns in Calabria, and everything was made by them. Everything that they fed
Yes,
us at the picnic was made by them. And I said, "This is the best capicola I ever had." And they said, "Well,
yeah,
we still make it the way we made it 300 years ago." And
that's
they
right.
thought it was odd, I think, that even though they knew I was American, that this was strange to me.
Yes, yes. I said everything you can't, if you can think of it, you can make it. So, we even, when we had figs and we conserve those, make fig jams, we do all kinds of preserves with our fruit because it couldn't be put in the refrigerator. So it had to be preserved or dried. Even our apples, we put our apples up in shelving and it would last all winter. They'd get shriveled up, but it was still a good apple. I liked them.
Wow. That's just so foreign to us. I mean, I grew up with the grocery stores were already here when I was growing up in
Yeah.
America. So,
No,
uh,
your pasta doesn't come from a box. You make it. And even
well,
now, I teach that.
my uncle used to make it every year. He was the only one who was still making pasta by hand, and he had the big board with the three sides.
Yeah.
And to this day, I wish I could. He would roll that pasta out with that big wooden stick, perfect, and then make
Yes.
ravioli or linguine or something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I went to culinary school late 1980s, and the Italian class, the chef, we're going to make our own pasta. So he's told everybody get a bowl, and I was like, "What's the? No, you don't make pasta in a bowl." He goes, "Well, yeah." No, I said, "No, that's not how you make it." He said, "Well, how do you make it?" And I said, "You put the flour on the table, you make a well, you put the eggs in, you beat the eggs, and you do it, and then you knead it." And he was like, "I never heard of that before." I said, "Well, you're not Italian. You didn't grow up watching it." So from that class on, he taught everybody when they made the pasta to make it with the well and all of that stuff.
And did you ever use a guitarra to make your
I've
pasta?
never used it. I have the machine that cuts it, but
Yeah.
yes, I saw that to use a guitar. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there were no machines. So my grandmother had one hanging in the kitchen. It was nice and dark, but I bought one on a place that we buy things.
And so with that, so how do you? I mean, with the machine, it's obviously easy. You feed it in, and it cuts it as you feed it. But how
Yes.
do you just like press it through the guitar? How do you do
That's
it?
it. You save the little rolling pin and you press it through, and then there's a little shelf that it slanted so that all you have to do is tip it over and it comes out. And you make sure you put plenty of flour because then it'll stick together if you don't.
Yeah.
So one side will have a linguine and the other side will have a spaghetti thinner. The wires will be closer together and it'll make you short, smaller spaghetti wide.
And you still use it. You still make it that way.
I still teach. I teach how to do that, and my classes get filled up overnight because there's so many people now that are going back to nature. Everything's going back to natural stuff. And when you make your own pasta, you know what you put in it. You don't
Well,
add anything.
and that's the thing. One of my friends from Italy, she was just in America, and they fed her some nasty pork with fake mozzarella on it, and they told her this was a good Italian American restaurant. But that's the thing in Italy, the dishes and the food did not there's not a ton of ingredients. There's maybe 3, 4,
No.
5 different ingredients in there.
Yes, simple. That with the pasta, and the desserts are just as delicious, and they're made with love. We
Yeah.
cook what is in the season. We don't save something from another season. It's seasonal cooking.
Right. And you even used to make your own tomato paste too, right?
Oh, yes. Yes, that's an easy thing to do. But you need a lot of space because you need to put it in the sun and you stir it until it becomes thick. So we used to have a spianatoia, which is a big, long wooden, and it's got sides on 3 sides. It's like a plank with 3 sides filled in. And you stand and you do everything there. And then you can put the liquid juice and put it out in the sun. We used to have 13 of them because we used to make enough spaghetti, enough for the whole year.
And you would just do that and leave it outside for how long would you leave it? How long would it take to make the
Until it
paste?
got dried. If it rained, you had to go cover it up because our top of these, where the cellar normally is here, was flat. So we put the spianatoia up there so that no dust or anything would get in there. It was be above the
Oh, wow. So it's
right on the
just
roof.
amazing. So you were 10. Your father was already in Canada, right?
In 1949 he left and looking for a job that was a year round, and he did have a hard time finding it, but finally he did find it in Halifax, where Henry, our cousin, was working with the guy, the son of the man who owns Oland, the brewery, and he was able to get him a job there, and he would pack boxes for beer boxes, And then when they didn't need them for that, they used them as a bricklayer or as a stonemason.
Yeah.
And now I can go see that. I can see
Yeah.
the places that he made, or the rocks, the walls that he made, and I bring my sons there to see them in Halifax. They're still there, so
Yeah,
it's a
that
good
must
memory.
be that must be really, really great to see. So, uh, how did you left from Naples, right? You took the boat from Naples. How did you get
Yeah.
from your town to Naples?
Naples is where we took our boat, and we went by boat. 13 days on the boat. The first 3 days were great. I was able to go run around, but the last 10 days I was sick in bed because had seasickness. So when I came over, I didn't even know my father because he left in 49. I came in 53. So 4 years. So, I know that you asked how I got to Naples. So to
Yeah.
Naples, we went uh, by car. We had the neighbors that would help us. So that trip was not too big. The trip over was the one that was the one I remember the most.
I probably want to
And I
forget,
never,
right?
no, I never will forget it. I'll never. They didn't even think, Mom didn't think that I'd be allowed in because I was so pale and, emaciated a lot.
Yeah, well, my uncle, he was supposed to come. They were ready to come, and one of my cousins, she had some kind of liver problem, disease, or something like that. That they think now that may have come from sheep. And she had a problem forever, but they had a. She got sick just before they were supposed to come, and they had to postpone it. And then I don't remember for how long, but yeah, it was about. I think it was about the same for him. I think he came right around when your dad came, 49, somewhere around there. And the rest of the family, I think, came probably 53 or 54, somewhere around that. And, because he couldn't come right in, even though his mother and father lived in America, were here since 1915. Um, and four of his brothers served in the army, in the Navy in America. He couldn't come in. He had to wait in Canada to come across. So it didn't really matter. So you got to Canada. You didn't speak any English, right?
Nothing at all. No, not at all. And I was put in school because my cousin taught the class there, and she didn't want me in her class, so I went to the other woman. And whenever I'd need help, she'd send me to my cousin. And if I made a mistake, I had to go around and say, "I'm sorry, I made a mistake." So she taught me a lot, and even learning the word milk, a bottle of milk. I had to walk the distance to learn how to make to say bottle milk, please, bottle milk. So the place is known as bottle milk by our group, but not by everybody. It's Mansour's was the real name. And, I'd go there even with a spent match, and he'd know I needed a match.
Oh,
So he became a good friend. He'd have a smile on on his face anytime I came in because he knew I had something to do.
well, my wife kept asking in the cafes in Italy for a latte,
Yes.
and they would look at her, and I say, no, you can't say latte here. You have to say cafe latte because they don't know what you mean if you just say latte, which just means milk, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For my family, I was the oldest in Halifax of all the Italian children from our Prato La Pelina, and I would be the one to be sent with everybody to do the translations, to help pay some bills. They paid everything cash. They didn't use the bank. They only had no checks, just cash. So I was the translator for everybody. So anytime I go back now, all of them want to come and see me because I'm the oldest.
Well, you look great, by the way. Uh, so, uh, so when you got there, your dad he already had bought a house, right?
He bought a house because Henry helped him, and he bought a house for $3,000. Now it's worth a lot more, but I had a nice little room, and it was decorated with valentines, and I didn't know what they were, but eventually I learned what they were. He bought the whole house. It was furnished. Somebody left it. So when I looked at all these things around the room, I learned a few things. But my girlfriends would come home and we'd play and also learn from everywhere. I learned from everybody. And even when we'd say the Our Father in the morning, I would say some curse words in Italian because they were all, that's what it sounded like. But it was the Our Father. So it's not easy learning a new language.
Oh, tell me about it. So now you got to the house and it's like, because one of the guys at the club, Dr. Nick, he had a similar situation. I think he was about your age when he came and came from a small town near Avellino. So you get to this house, you must have thought it must have been like a castle or something like that to you, right?
It was, yes. It had everything that I had ever wanted. My own room, my bed, walls that were not with other windows in there. There was only one window. And we had a front room. Eventually we got a TV because that was the years so that we could have a TV. And then we also got 4 more children came along to add to the family. Now, when I tell people that I'm one of 6 and there's 15 years difference, they ask me, is it the same mom and dad? I said, yeah, it's the same one. It's unusual.
Well, my father, both my mothers and fathers, my mother there were 11 at one time in her family. 2 died in Italy very, very young. My father, he was probably 15 or 16 years difference from his older brother. And my mother, probably maybe even more. In fact, my cousin Mary, who's in her 90s, was only about 7 years younger than my mother. And they
Wow.
were, and funny because when they were younger, when my cousin was, this is the one that was smuggled in. My mother and her looked more than anybody else. My mother and her looked very, very similar. They resembled each other a lot when they were, when my mother was probably about 30 and she was like in her 20s. So that kind of stuff is interesting, when you see the family like that. But I know my Uncle John's wife, my Aunt Josephine, she refused to go back. He wanted to go back to visit. She said no. Because she envisioned it was going to be like when she left because they moved into my great grandparents' house, 2 rooms. My cousin explained it. She said that one room was for my mother and father and the baby. And she said there was always a baby. And the other room was everything else, the kitchen, the living room, the kids' bedroom, and everything.
That is so true. So true. Every little space is used. We had a lot of people after we moved into Halifax. We hosted a lot of people. They came, my father's sister, and then after they left, they bought a house nearby. My mother's sister came and she got married. She brought her husband, and her husband's brother came. Her husband's sister came. One of the sisters brought somebody. So a whole lot of people came through our house. So that's why I called it the welcoming house.
Well, my grandparents used to send money back to Torito to help people come across. And my uncle and aunt did go to Toronto, and he was welcomed like a celebrity in the town because of what my grandmother had done to help people come across. And I guess that wasn't uncommon back then.
No, people remember. They remember, and they never forget.
Yeah, no. That's the lesson I learned over there. They told me that too when I was talking about, some of my family and ancestors. And I said, why is everybody so happy to see me? And they said exactly what you said. We don't forget, you're still part of us,
Yes,
and I don't think we have that concept on this side of the world.
No, I just came back from Halifax and I have people that come, and I hadn't seen one girl for 30 years. So we stayed and chatted so long that it's lots of good memories. And it's been 30 years, but it's as if it would never happened. We're still friends.
So growing up, your children, I guess, did they feel more Italian? Did they feel more Canadian? Or what was it like for your children?
For my children, they were born in Canada, but now they're in the States. So they're American. But since they're born there, they might think of having dual citizenship. So I was trying to be more American than Italian. But now I'm more Italian than American.
Well, I felt that way. I feel I'm more Italian when I'm in America, but when I'm in Italy, I just feel like I'm an
Yeah,
American.
they tell me I have an accent.
Oh, and
I'm
you
not
speak
Italian.
Italian.
One can tell me that I'm from Pratola just by the way I speak Italian. From Pratola. And we have a dialect, of course. I can speak the dialect, but you don't speak that anywhere else. You speak it only in the Pratola. Because at one time, nobody spoke Italian. They learned in the home, they were the dialect, and then they go to school and learn Italian. So my Italian is good, but my dialect is even better. So I guess it comes through when I speak Italian. There's a little twang there somehow.
Yeah, well, that's what the couple of guys in the class, besides the teacher, a couple of them speak very, very well. You know, the guy who comes from Avellino, when he talks to the guy who comes up from one of the other guys lived up by Trieste, almost in Switzerland. He lived so close. And, you know, they talk about the dialects and the different way the words are. I know in the South, we chop everything off. You know, we chop off those vowels
Yes.
at the end.
Yes.
And in the North, they don't do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like my
They do.
uncle.
Yes, they do. That's right. Dialect it gels people together.
Well, my parents used to argue all the time over who was speaking proper because my father was from Naples, my mother was from Puglia. But my uncle Giovanni, they never called him Giovanni. It was always Juan. That's the
Yeah.
way they said
Yeah.
his name, Juan.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yes. Chop off the ending.
Yeah,
And now when
yeah.
I teach Italian, I say, you got to say the ending.
Well, that's I don't want to ask you a question about learning Italian, but that to me, uh, t- the toughest things for me is you have to pronounce every letter practically. So you know, with English, you don't do that. Um, and then learning the tenses of the verbs, the endings of the verbs, because we don't use that in America either. And
No,
that's
no.
like, learning the verb is one thing, but then learning it, and then if it's past perfect or present and past, everything's different. So what's your expert advice for people like me who are in their 70s who are desperate to learn Italian? What's what's your advice for us?
All right. The advice is that you just need to know that O, when it ends in O, it's always I. I vado, it's I go. And then andiamo, iamo is always we. So whenever you hear it, those two ending, then the other ones are harder. So you have your O, I, A if it's an AR reverb, or E if it's an ER reverb, or I if it's an IR reverb. So those just, if you keep a little thing in your brain, you will never mistake O and Yamo.
Yes.
Because
So
that's
just
already
remember,
there.
I ends in
It's
the
already
O, and
there.
yeah, that's good advice.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you.
I mean, that's really, I mean, I'm catching on now to you have to pronounce everything. Like in Italy, I'm embarrassed when I say my name Sorrentino because that's not the way the Italians say it. They say Sorrentino. Sounds
Yes.
nice, but sounds a lot nicer in Italian than it does in
Because
English.
they're pounding on the R's, the
Uh-huh.
doubles. I teach all levels of students, and they start a little bit, and we keep pound on the R's, I say, because that's the hardest thing. When I give a dictation, they can't figure out if it's a double consonant or not. But if I'm pounding on it, they know. And so I usually try to pound on the double R, Sorrentino, and you
Yes,
roll
right.
your R's.
Right. Right. And it's like I said, it sounds, when they say my name over there, it sounds a lot nicer than we say it over here.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
because it's done
and
right.
well, yeah, and I guess the other thing too is the vowels, unlike in English, the vowels sounds don't change either for the most part.
That's right. And you have to open your mouth. In English, we don't open our mouth. I often say, open your mouth and say it. Ah, E, O, U.
I'm going to tell that to Alan. I'm going to tell that to our teacher. You have to tell us to open our mouth and roll the R's and
Bravo.
But it is, like I said, I could kind of sort of read it a little bit. I'm starting to understand better when people are talking, but me saying it is different. And I came back with the first trip that we made to Italy a few years ago, or the second one. First one was like real long time ago. They gave me so many books in Italian that I'm dying to read. So I pick them up every once in a while and try to get through them. And I use Rosetta Stone. And since I'm taking the classes, though, I'm doing better with Rosetta Stone than I was before. So I'll get there.
Good.
I'll get there.
Well, I went through hell, purgatory, and heaven with Italian and English just to try to get rid of my accent. And as you can hear, I didn't get rid of my accent, but the professor did learn the hell, purgatory, and heaven. We did it with marbles in my mouth or with cotton batting. And it was a challenge. It was a challenge, but I had fun. So Dante, in my second book, I have Dante in there. So
yes, I saw that. Yeah.
Go through hell.
Well, what I'm going to do when I haven't finished the second book yet. I'm almost to the end, but when I do, I'm going to put them in our library at the club, so that we have a library. We probably have a couple 100 books in there, so I'll put them in the club, and people. I'm going to tell the guys.
My third book.
Oh, really?
When I get a third book, you want to know when I get my third book?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we'll do another show and talk about it.
Thank you.
But yeah, I was going to tell the guys in the class that you have the book is in Italian and English, so they could read it in Italian and then read the English translation if they want.
Yeah, I think it's unusual. I don't know of any other books like that.
No, I don't. I want to say I don't know if she had a book. There was one other person who did something similar, but it wasn't a book like yours. But I want to say that there was some other person who did. Oh, I know what it was. Children's books. There was a woman I interviewed. She did some children's books, and she had the dual language.
Yes, yeah. That's great. That's great. I love doing it that way. I have a lot of people that have helped me.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a great concept. So before we go, where can people find the books to buy?
Oh, they can buy it from Amazon. I have some links from my publisher sent me some links for my books. Or Amazon, if you just put my name, Egizia Santilli Brown book comes up.
Oh, great. So we'll put I'll put the links on there when we do the blog and everything like that.
Thank you.
This has been great, Egizia. I really enjoyed it, and it was a lot of fun for sure. I love hearing about the old days in Italy, especially from somebody who knows it like you do, growing up there.
So I'm one of the old ones. I'm 82.
You look great for 82, I'll tell you that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.